Today's lesson is on 7.3, which is special right triangles. And there are two types of special right triangles. There's the 45, 45, 90 and the 30, 60, 90. In today's lesson, we're going to focus on the 45, 45, 90. So here's how the 45, 45, 90 right triangle works. The two legs of the right triangle are the same. They're congruent. The hypotenuse, which is the longest side, is whatever the leg is times the square root of 2. A quick example of what that means. So if we have a 45, 45, 90 right triangle, and let's say the legs are both 3, that means the hypotenuse would be whatever the leg is times the square root of 2. In this case, 3 radical 2. Another example. Here's our 45, 45, 90 right triangle. Let's say our two legs were both 8. That means our hypotenuse would be the leg times the square root of 2. Okay, if we go backwards, if I give you another 45, 45, 90 right triangle, and let's say the hypotenuse is 5 square root of 2, the legs would be whatever that number in the front is, which is 5. Those are all very easy examples, okay? Now, sometimes that might not be the case. Sometimes if we have, let's say our legs are the square root of 3 instead of a whole number. Well, we still know the rule. It's the leg times the square root of 2. So it's the square root of 3 times the square root of 2. This can be simplified. I can times those. That becomes the square root of 6. And that cannot be simplified anymore. So that would be our hypotenuse. A couple of other examples. In this 45, 45, 90 right triangle, one of the legs is 9. I know the legs are congruent. So this leg is also 9. Making the hypotenuse the leg times radical 2. The legs are both 9. So that's going to be 9 times radical 2. This one's a little bit more complicated. In this example, our legs are both 2 radical 2. So our hypotenuse is the leg times radical 2. All right, now the leg is 2 radical 2 times radical 2 from the rule. So I'm going to simplify. I'm going to multiply the square roots together, giving you square root of 4. Square root of 4 simplifies to 2. I'm going to bring down this 2, and then finally multiply them together, giving you 4 as the hypotenuse. So as you can see, sometimes they're very simple. Sometimes they're a little bit more complicated. The next example, we are given the hypotenuse, and we're asked to find the legs. Now, in our rule, the hypotenuse is supposed to have a square root of 2 in it. In this example, it does not. What that says is the legs will have the square root of 2. Now, how do we get those legs? I know that the leg times the square root of 2 is equal to whatever the hypotenuse is. The leg in this instance is x. Square root of 2 equals the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is 6. So I'm going to solve this equation. So to solve this, we have to divide both sides by the square root of 2. Those cancel, giving us the leg equal to 6 divided by the square root of 2. Now the rule is you cannot have a square root on the bottom of a fraction, so we have to rationalize the denominator, which means we are going to multiply the top and bottom by the radical on the bottom, which is radical 2. And let's simplify. On the top we have 6 radical 2, and on the bottom we have radical 4. I'm going to continue. 6 radical 2 divided by the square root of 4 is 2. And finally, we can divide 6 and 2, giving us a final answer of 3 radical 2. That's the long version. If the hypotenuse is a whole number, we take the hypotenuse, we divide it by 2, and then times it by the square root of 2. So you can see if I took 6, divided it by 2, which is 3, and then put the square root of 2 on the end, we would have our answer. An additional example, let's see if we can summarize this. If the hypotenuse was 8, if I use my shortcut here, I divide 8 by 2 and put the square root of 2 on the end. That would make our legs 4 square root of 2. One more example. If our hypotenuse is an odd number, like 11, that doesn't divide by 2, so we leave it in fraction form. 11 over 2, square root of 2. That concludes our lesson on 45, 45, 90 right triangle.